yeah, so we're building this company called Fermat Commerce, and the idea is we want to actually enable brands to take their commerce experiences to where the consumer is, which we believe is in conversations with creators. So, I mean, sometimes people call them influencers, but like the place where consumers are spending their time is in conversations with creators. And so we want to take commerce capabilities right to the point of that conversation happening and basically like flip the model that occurs today. So today's model is, hey, I have your attention, and now I'm going to try to pull you away from the thing that you're focusing on into an ad. And then from that ad, I'm going to try to redirect you to a brand's website. And instead, we want to say like, no, we should take the brand and bring the brand to where the consumer already is, which is in that conversation with the creator. And so that's sort of the key hypothesis for the company is how do we flip the model for how people engage with content on the internet.
So how would it, so instead of like an ad kind of tag switching them away from what's going on, how would it work under your paradigm?
Yeah, so basically it's like, let's just say there's like some sort of creator content that you're looking at. So let's just say it's like, hey, you're looking at somebody who's like doing a recipe, right? So there's like all of these like recipe videos on like Instagram or TikTok or wherever it is, right? And then you're just like, oh wow, that's cool. Like I want to, like the pan or the wok that this person is using looks really useful in this context. I want to be able to buy that, right? And so then when you click on sort of the buy now button, it just immediately pulls up the ability as a partnership between the creator and the brand that makes that pot or pan, like the ability to buy that directly in context. And then once you're done buying it, you go back into the content, right? And so the whole idea is that instead of sort of taking you on a totally separate journey, how do you stay immersed within the content and actually allow people to transact on the thing that they want to transact on in the moment that they want to transact on it?
Okay, so let's say we're watching this on YouTube and we see your hexagons behind you, and you have a brand deal with I don't know, the hexagon people. And so when like there's like a buy now button and maybe like a list of items that you have like a brand deal or something in the window, and you kind of check on it and it kind of opens up like a panel for you to like buy that really quickly.
Exactly. It would be like opening up a panel like this. So then you're like, you're immersed in the content, and then you can actually sort of check out and then go back to the content. Yeah.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I've heard of like similar-ish things with like Instagram, where if like people have different clothes and stuff, it'll like show you like, hey, this is like a Reebok, or I'm not very in with clothes, as you can tell by my very simple way of dress. But like you have like different ways of seeing like what they're wearing and then like emulate it. I think there's someone like Elon Musk, which is funny. Like people have like broken down his like everything he wears, and then like copy it and put it on Instagram. And they can like pick it and be like, I want his shoes. It's like I'm glad you like him so much that you want to literally be in his shoes. So, but so I've seen that in a number of places. What separates the way you're doing it from how other people are doing it? And I imagine like you've looked at, I imagine you've looked at the way they're doing it. There's probably a special sauce that you've seen just in the like maybe in the gaps or in the gray areas of how they implement that strategy, maybe ineffectively.
Yeah. So the most common way of doing it is basically you tag it and then you link the person out directly to the brand's website. So basically, let's just say it's like, hey, you see him and he's wearing Nike shoes, and then you click on it, and then now it takes you to the Nike website. So there's two things. One is either you get taken to the general Nike website, in which case now you're like trying to find those shoes on the Nike website, which is you're not solving the consumer's problem because the consumer intent was, hey, I want those set of shoes. The second is you can take the person directly to the product description page, but now it feels like two disconnected experiences, right?
Yeah.
So I was actually watching content, but now I see this like product description page, which looks like any other product description page. And so now it feels like I am shopping instead of it feeling like I'm immersed in the content. And so what that does is it creates like from a psychological perspective, it creates a discontinuity in the intent. And now what the person is going to do is they're going to browse around and look for other shoes, and now intent starts to fade, right? And so the idea is, okay, when this person has high intent, how do I create an experience that is authentic to the creator or the influencer and the brand at that for that product. And then let's solve that problem. And then, yes, if you want to, you can create upsell opportunities. Like that's actually easier to do after the fact. But let's like give the consumer what they're asking for in the moment, and then create a really smooth process afterwards. Mm-hmm. That's like the idea, is like basically the models today don't acknowledge the content that the person came from. That's like the fundamental insight, is like, okay, I need to acknowledge the fact that this person is learning about this in the context of this creator, and I'm going to keep that context throughout the entire like commerce and checkout flow. And so that's what we do, is we basically like, let's say you're seeing this video of an influencer with a pan. When you click buy now, you'll see an image of the influencer with the pan in your checkout, right? So like, instead of seeing again like just a normal carousel of like different angles of the pan, it's like, okay, yeah, you came from the influencer site, you're going to see the influencer again, and then things like that. So we basically make the experience way more immersive. That's the key insight.
No, that's really smart. That's really smart. I really love this idea, because the whole point of what you're buying is the experience. Like people buy Jordans because they love the feeling of being excellent like Jordan. They buy Mr. Beast burgers because they want to be a part of the fun of being a part of that, or like be on his apps and all these other things. So it's like, there's actually a really great YouTube channel, Eric and Samar, I think, where they break down like brand deals, like people, like creators that make their content, like create something, and how well it is as it relates to their content. And so if you can make something that's a part of the experience, it makes people feel like they're a part of it as well. Where it's like, hey, so let's say chef knives, like if Gordon Ramsay was using chef knives, and it says like, hey, you can buy these chef knives, and you click it and you see Gordon Ramsay basically there, like you're having a continuation of that brand experience. I mean, like I'm basically saying back to what you're saying, and it's called Intuit. Like something that I have is like when you click on something and you go through it, if it's already gonna be different. So you're already gonna kind of feel like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Because what if it's like a bad link, or you're gonna have to put private information in or something like that. But if it's like a continuation of that trusted person, like you're gonna trust that website more. And then I imagine the conversion rate is gonna be ridiculously better. And the creator benefits, the brand benefits, and more importantly than any of those is the consumer, the user, because they're gonna have an experience that they're gonna feel good about that. And they're gonna feel like they're really a part of that continuous journey with that creator that they started. So that's really powerful. I haven't seen it done like that before. So that's really cool. I could see a lot of people getting behind that. So I'm basically just saying I love that a lot. So I'm a fan.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, the nice thing about talking about these ideas with like podcast hosts is that like I don't need to sell the idea to you that content is what matters, right? It's like obviously content matters. Otherwise, you wouldn't be spending your valuable time hosting a podcast, right? It's like to people who create content, it is plainly obvious that content is super important. And so, yeah, I think that enabling commerce to participate directly in content is incredibly powerful. And you're right, we're seeing early data from our like alpha customers is showing that like click-through rates and cart fill rates and all this stuff is just like, it's unbelievably good. It's unbelievably good. Yeah.
I think it's like every click you can remove improves the click-through rate on average by like 20%. Like, which I mean, overall it could still be like a 12%, conversion rate, but it's still like every decrease in a click that someone has to click to get to their desired result is a significant increase in how many people actually are acquired in terms of like buying the thing. Like I know there are startups that have like 7 clicks to buy. Like sometimes if I'm looking at a competitor, I'll literally just sit there and like, I'm going to buy this. How many clicks do I have to do this? It's like, great. Mine's going to be 2. I win.
Yeah. No. It's true. I mean, and we have the same problem for like our own onboarding process, right? Like the number of steps right now, because we're a new company, the onboarding process right now, like there's a number of steps that are manual as we automate it, but it is a super important focus for us that as soon as somebody says like, yeah, this is a great idea, we want to make the number of steps as low as possible, as quickly as possible, right? So that way, as soon as somebody decides like, yeah, I want to do this, we make it super simple for them to just like start to actually engage with the platform.
Mhm. How does a creator engage with your platform? Like, how does it work
Yeah.
once they're in?
Yeah. So, I mean, basically right now, the way that it works is that a creator signs up to the platform, and then today it is manual, but over time it'll be automated, that we sort of surface interesting brand matches based on their content, right? So we want to like create this sort of engine that generates, hey, here are matches that we think are good partnerships for you. And then we allow either side to sort of do like a double opt-in partnership through us. And then the creator then surfaces the shopping experience in their content.
Mhm.
So that's like that's the flow, is that they sign up first for the platform, and then the match with the brand happens afterward.
Okay. And then how is it exported into whatever avenue the creator's using it? Like, is it completely handled within, let's say like we're making a partnership. We said, great, we settle on everything. You have pictures of me playing with your hexagons, and and can I like click a button and then like there's a link or an embed that would like go into my
Exactly.
stuff from there. So like it's just
Exactly.
like really
It's that.
streamlined.
Yeah, it's literally that already right now. So like
Oh, that's
once we
awesome.
agree, and you just like literally copy a tag of the product and then you put it in, and then we do all of the work of loading the shopping experience that's authentic. Now you can do additional things, like you can like I was saying, hey, you can like send us photos, or you can upload photos directly into the platform, that as you're scanning through the product carousel images in the checkout, it's like actually photos of the creator with the product to make it more personal. You can like personalize the post checkout experience to make it more authentic to the creator brand partnership. There's like elements of personalization that you can do that make it like super fun and way more engaging. So those add like a few more steps, but honestly, it's like really easy. It's like the type of thing that you could just sort of do on your phone. Hey, I want to put this image here. I want to put this image here. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And imagine if it's that simple, you're pretty agnostic. Like it could be on like TikTok, it could be on YouTube, it could be on Instagram. Like you can kind of be anywhere that content lives then.
Exactly.
Okay. Is there like a particular use case that you're focusing on in your initial, or are you able to be broad and still focus at the same time?
So we actually started with like the hardest one first, which I don't know if it was intentional, but it just so happened to be how we started. So we started with like an in-blog experience, which by far is actually the most complex from both a technical and partnership perspective, because then you actually have to have blog content. You have to make sure that the actual shopping experience looks really good in the context of the greater blog, as opposed to just solving for Instagram, and then you can just design it so that way it looks really good for Instagram or TikTok, and then just design it to make it look good for TikTok, for example. So we chose like the hardest one to start and like solved it there. And so now as we go wide, it's actually very easy to go wide into other surfaces.
Are you able to do like if let's say I want to be on your platform to utilize all these great tools, but I already have products, like I'm a master of hexagons, you didn't know this, so I want to sell my own hexagons. Am I able to like upload everything and let it be created and use these similar things for my own stuff, or on your platform, are you only able to like, it has to be with other brands, if that makes sense? Can you do your own stuff that you've created and built?
This is like one of the things that surprised us, actually. So we didn't build the company assuming that people would want to actually use it in their own content, but actually, like, yeah, 20% of the brands who we talk to want to actually start using it on their own site with their own products and their own content, which it just sort of like took me by surprise. That, so like exactly what you were thinking, like we had not thought of that use case, but we're just getting pulled into that use case. So we actually have cases where people are embedding our shopping experiences directly in their own blogs or places that they own the content, because it's just such a like immersive experience.
Yeah. Well, that would be like the margins on everything is better that way. And then you're really, really fine tuning the brand. So it's a really awesome continuous experience. Like you don't even have to integrate with another existing, you're like facilitating like a decrease in clicks and an increase and that conversation experience. Like that's so powerful. Are you
Yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, the main risk with focusing only on that is then you're relying on the fact that the brand has its own really strong customer acquisition strategy. So the reason why we really like the creator brand partnerships is because creators are, like, by definition where distribution is happening these days, right? So like a really strong creator can actually show your product to like thousands of people or millions of people potentially, right? But a brand's own exposure is completely dependent on a brand's own channels for how they get exposure. And so like that's sort of the trade-off between optimizing for partnerships with creators, where creators by definition are distribution channels, and then brands, it depends on how good the brand's own distribution channels are already. So that's sort of the one dynamic that we try to like really help our brands understand, is which channels are most effective for them today, and how does that affect how they should be thinking about their ongoing channel strategy.
And then what's like the cost? Is it you just take like a percentage, or do people have to like pay to be a part of like a subscription?
No, we just take a percentage. We take like a very small percentage of every transaction. And I mean, honestly, I feel like I should be charging more, because not once has anybody like blinked when I've told them the cost. So
yeah, I feel like you're gonna get acquired by YouTube. Like I feel like that, like you'd help YouTube make so much more money.
Yeah, I think it is. I think what's interesting for us is we want to be channel agnostic.
Yeah.
Like that's when it gets like really interesting, is helping brands across various channels. And I mean, we just saw over the last 2 years, like, 2 years ago, if we were having this conversation, you would be like, man, it feels like you're going to get acquired by Instagram. And then all of a sudden, everybody's on TikTok. You know what I mean? And so it's like, well, actually, which one is more important? Is TikTok more important, or is Instagram more important? And so I think like being channel agnostic is actually super important, as we like, the world is going to change so fast over the next few years.
Yeah. We live in interesting times, which is also a bad thing. If you say you live in interesting times, that means you live in not good times. There's like good and bad. That's like there's a quote about that somewhere, where it's like, if you want to live in like calm times, like you want to live in like Hobbiton, when like the Nazgul and like all the Mordor people are just like out, not doing anything bad. You're just like sitting there at a pub with nothing going on. But I agree with you in the positive sense. There's a lot of really great things going on. It's a great time to find like your voice and define it in the world and then share. I mean, there's people that literally that's all they're they just go about their day and they share it, and people love it so much that they can make money from it. Like that's basically what the Kardashians. They just go around, and I've never seen it. I think my wife watches it. Yeah, I mean, there's a whole bunch of people.
Kardashians. Yeah, there's like hundreds of thousands of people at this point. I mean, like the creator economy on the one hand gets a lot of coverage, but on the other hand does not get enough coverage. You know what I mean? It's like one of those.
It's undersaturated.
It's bigger than you think and smaller than you think at the same time. Yeah.
It's undersaturated.
There's 600,000 people, over 600,000 people who have over 10,000 followers on Instagram, meaning there's over 500,000 people who could make a full-time income off of their Instagram feed alone.
Wow. I don't know the metrics for Instagram. But that's pretty cool. There's
Isn't
a lot
that wild?
Yeah. That's really cool. Well, this is like such a neat and very important thing that you're building, especially as we're moving into an age where people don't really want a normal 9-to-5 job. I think a lot of people love the idea of being their own boss, and being a part of the creator economy seems like a very effective way to do that. Because I think being a scientist, and I think being a creative person, I think is just like one of the core things of cognition, some of the core things of cognition. So I think it's baked in to every human, and then it's just like beat out in K through 12.
But I think like, what do humans, I mean, the funny thing about it is, like, we think that actually, the economy runs based on utility, but the economy does not run on utility. It runs on inspiration, right? It's like, yes, the first set of your income goes to, or like your budget goes towards like your needs, meaning like okay, I need to make sure that there's a roof over my head and there's food. But like the moment your needs are met, immediately your purchases switch into like inspiration-based purchases or like story-based purchases, right? It's like, why do you go watch a sports game? It's like, we love the stories, right? Why do you listen to other people's stories? Because they either inspire you or they're relatable, right? Why is reality TV so popular, right? It's like, why is Selling Sunset doing so well on Netflix? Right? Right? It's shockingly more relatable because it feels real, right? Like these people, this is like actually happening in their lives. So yeah, I think that like appreciating the fact that stories are what move people and just tapping into that is way more powerful than the alternative, which is like, hey, everything is a utility. It's like, no, actually, never in human history have we operated an economy based on utility.